The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
And hello, I'm your host, Darren Hyman. And of course, you're watching the one and only interactive talk show bringing the best of the Bronx and the world right to you. First up, a physician from Montefiore Sleep Lab discusses how the amount of hours you sleep can not only affect your job performance, but also put you at risk for a coronary disease. And it's a new and powerful business leading student veterans on the path to the right career. And we'll catch up with a guest who begins his own unique journey to honor America. And a little later on in our program, we'll introduce you to a new partnership with Mayor Bloomberg's Young Men's Initiative that's launched with the goal to serve more at-risk youth. And finally, the high school application process can be a very nerve-wracking one for many New York students, but one local organization is making it easier. So stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way, because right now, we're officially open. And hello, Bronxites. I'm your host, Darren Hyman. Today is Wednesday, March 14th, 2012. You're watching Open, the only live and interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York straight to your TV. We encourage you to give us a call at 718-960-7241. Or as always, you can send us an email to open@bronxnet.org. We also want to let you know that you can hit us up on Facebook by searching under Open BronxNet Television and Twitter by following our page at BronxNet TV. And if you want, you can also watch us live from your computer on our website at www.bronxnet.org. Well, the recently released National Sleep Foundation Sleep in America poll explores the effects of sleep on job performance and the safety of pilots, train workers, truckers, bus and taxi drivers. Several Montefiore Medical Center sleep experts have begun partaking in discussions regarding the results of the poll. We're now joined by one of them, Dr. Naomi Shah, and we welcome you now. And you've conducted research on the relationship between obstructive sleep apnea and the coronary artery, and you come up with some very interesting results.
Yes, so the initial postdoctoral research that I did at Yale University showed that sleep apnea is a risk factor for heart attacks. And we're currently doing sleep studies on patients coming to Montefiore Hospital who are undergoing they're coming in with a heart attack, and we're doing sleep studies on these patients as they come in with their heart attack. And what we're finding is that about 60% of patients, 60 to 70, so 2/3 of the patients coming in with a heart attack have sleep apnea that they didn't know about.
So it really could be a contributing factor.
Exactly.
Talk to us a little bit about this. Men, women, who are at higher risk?
So traditionally, men are at a higher risk. The ratios have been anywhere from 20 to 1, with men being 20 times higher risk for sleep apnea compared to women, and more recently 3 to 1. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that patients, women especially, don't present with similar symptoms as men for sleep apnea. So men will traditionally present with snoring, excessive daytime sleepiness, and I think a family physician is more likely to pick that up as a sign or a clue for sleep apnea that's underdiagnosed in that patient. But women traditionally will present with fatigue, depression, and sort of the uncommon symptoms, and it's usually not picked up as sleep apnea that's causing those symptoms.
Now let me ask for some of our viewers out there
Sure.
who might be watching, and they say, listen, I hear the word sleep apnea, but what exactly is it?
Right, so sleep apnea is essentially a condition that you stop breathing in your sleep. It can happen either completely, where the airway collapses entirely, or partially, which is a hypopnea. And all of those added up over the course of the night gives us a severity in terms of how many times a person stops breathing. 5 or more is considered diagnostic for sleep apnea, but usually 15 or more is clinically significant. That's 15 times per hour of sleep.
So 15 times a person can really stop breathing?
Yes, absolutely, and that's actually mild to moderate. We see over 30, we've seen patients who stop breathing about 200 times an hour.
200 times?
Yeah.
So medically, what's the treatment that's involved in dealing with sleep apnea? Because
Right.
you got somebody falling, 200 times an hour, that's pretty dangerous.
It is, exactly. So it results in excessive daytime sleepiness as the most common symptom. And the way we treat it is the gold standard treatment is continuous positive airway pressure therapy, which is essentially a mask that the patient wears anytime that they're sleeping. And that, is a pressurized air that's being transmitted into their airway that keeps the airway open. It's a pneumatic stent, essentially. And that cures the condition, so as long as they wear the mask.
So if
They're
you wear,
cured.
you'll be cured.
Exactly. In most of them.
Is there a lot of, I want to say, people who are just not really familiar in terms of it? Because you have a lot of people who, they sleep,
Right.
and the
Right.
husband and the wife sleeping together, and, the wife notices, okay, listen,
Exactly.
he's got a little problem right
Absolutely.
here. Is it misdiagnosed a lot of times?
You mean underdiagnosed?
Underdiagnosed, I
Yes,
should say.
absolutely, yeah. So it is definitely underdiagnosed. 90% of women who have sleep apnea don't know they have it.
Wow.
So it's really, in women especially, it's severely underdiagnosed. And yes, absolutely, the partners, because of the loud snoring, which is another common symptoms, tend to sleep in separate beds. And that there's actually research or evidence that's shown that divorce rates are higher in people who have sleep apnea.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you can't get a good night's sleep,
Yeah, I guess so.
amongst other things.
Right, exactly.
Warning signs when it comes to sleep apnea. When should people really be on the alert that this might be my condition?
Right, so if you're snoring loudly, that can be heard across the room, or if you're having excessive daytime sleepiness, if you're an adult, over 18 years of age, males more than females, but again, the prevalence ratios are starting to close out. So, and if you're in your middle age and have hypertension, so obese, snorers, excessive daytime sleepiness, hypertension, and if you're male gender, that's, essentially a very high risk for sleep apnea.
So overall, if you're a male and you talk about, men, a pretty large number of men are
Right.
actually affected by it. Things that they should do: go get checked out quite frequently. How frequently should a person be?
So you just need a one-time sleep study to be able to, diagnose sleep apnea. So if you have any of these symptoms and you're bothered by it in terms of either consequences from a cardiovascular health standpoint, hypertension namely, or if you have excessive daytime sleepiness that's affecting your job performance, or if you're falling asleep while you're driving, we recommend that you go see your primary care physician, or you can go see a sleep person directly. And you go for a sleep study that's done overnight, where you sleep in a sleep lab typically. And then you get a result, and it tells you whether or not you have sleep apnea. If you have sleep apnea, you tend to come back for the titration part or the treatment part of it. And then that's pretty much it. If your weight stays stable and you're tolerating the therapy, you really don't need anything further.
Share a little bit about the research that you guys were doing at Montefiore, because obviously you guys were part of this, taking part in this research study.
Yeah.
How was that conducted?
So what we do is we identify patients that come in with an acute myocardial infarction, and we consent them for enrollment in our study. And our study essentially involves looking at whether they have sleep apnea. So we're using a portable sleep monitor where the patient in the hospital is applied a monitor that tells us whether or not they have sleep apnea as they sleep in the hospital. And that's how we've learned that about 60 to 70% of our Bronx patients coming into Montefiore have sleep apnea.
Wow, 60 to 70% of
Yeah.
Bronx patients.
Coming in with a heart attack, yeah, absolutely.
So in the future, obviously prevention, awareness is key. What are some of the other things that people can do before we leave?
I think obesity is becoming a very common risk factor for sleep apnea. So, as the obesity epidemic is upon us, we're going to see more sleep apnea. So I would just caution patients, obviously, for weight loss management. But if that's not possible, it's not achievable all the time, primary care physicians out in the community really need to look for this, the symptoms that we've just talked about.
Here in the borough of the Bronx, we know asthma is a real major issue for those people.
Right.
Is that a contributing factor at all in sleep apnea, asthma, and sleep apnea?
Absolutely. So obesity and asthma are closely tied, and there's evidence that people with sleep apnea have uncontrolled asthma, and as you treat their sleep apnea, their asthma gets better. So there's clearly associations between all three of them. I don't think we understand the mechanisms, quite well to know which one causes what, but they're all commonly tied, and treating one gets the other condition improved.
So very clearly, just go see a doctor, take the sleep study, and if it is, then
Absolutely, and it's a treatable condition, 100%.
Good. Well, thank you so much for coming
Absolutely.
and sharing with us a
My
little bit
pleasure.
about this. It was very enlightening to find out as well.
Well, thanks for having me.
All righty. Well, we encourage you to stay with us, because coming up next, we'll introduce you to a company helping veterans fight the battle of beginning a new career. That's coming up next when we return right here on Open.
Did you find the flashlight and the batteries?
Yes.
Did you make sure we're not missing anything in the first aid kit?
Yep.
Did you go through the plan with the kids again?
Yes. The more you prepare today, the more you'll be able to reduce the devastating effects of a tornado, an earthquake, a power outage, or any other disaster.
Did you know that getting up and getting active for just 60 minutes a day is all it takes to help you get stronger, look better, and feel great?
Or that fresh fruits and veggies aren't just healthier and crunchier, they can taste better too?
Eating better and getting more active is easier than you think.
Yeah! Keep watching for some fun and easy ways to discover the magic of healthy living in your life.
America.
Let's get healthy together!
You're really not that talented.
You're not attractive.
Too fat.
You're too short.
Too old? Why don't you just give up?
Give up.
Give up. Just give up.
And welcome back to Open. Darren Jaime here with you. So glad to have you sharing with us on this beautiful Wednesday. It's warm outside, and we are glad that we can warm you up with another brand new episode of Open. Well, there are plenty of organizations focused on assisting veterans coming home from war with employment and housing opportunities, but one centers around providing student veterans with summer internships at the nation's top businesses, including NBC. Here, student vets will learn job skills that will connect them to corporate mentors. And joining us now to tell us more on 4 Block is co-founder and project manager Francisco Mena, and we welcome you now to the show. Francisco, good to have you.
Thank you, Darren, for having me here.
Great. So share a little bit about what you guys do.
Well, we do two things. We push and pull veterans. So we push veterans towards information concerning internships. Whereas, a veteran coming back home, they're studying, they're living at home, possibly they're married, or they have different responsibilities than the typical or the traditional college student. So we push them in the sense that, what an internship could do for your career. Mm-hmm. And then the pull is that we partner with organizations like JP Morgan, NBC, Bloomberg, Telemundo, and we say, hey, we have a cohort of veterans coming back home. They're looking to enhance their skills. They're already proven leaders. This is a win-win both for your company and for the student veteran. Do something for your country and also get a valuable employee in terms of an intern. Mm. And most of the companies that we go to with that pitch say yes. How can we participate?
Right, because that was going to be my next question, talking about the receptivity of those corporations. Because when you do have these student veterans coming in, sometimes people may not be so quick to say, listen, we want to put you in an internship program. What is the mood amongst corporate America, specifically considering we're in wartime?
Well, you've seen the commercials, you've seen the flags. I mean, there's a lot of lip service being done here in the nation concerning veteran issues. What we have found to be most effective is connecting with veterans already at corporations and through the veteran organizations there. For example, NBC Universal has the Veteran Network. And through those veteran organizations, they're more likely to go ahead and commit to a project like this or commit to hiring student veteran interns. Mm-hmm. I think in the long term, in the nation, I think that every organization should commit to something like 10% of their internship cohort be designated for student veterans if they really want to make an impact. If we really want to see systematic change in the way veterans begin new careers, then doing bracket 10%, 5%, or whatever you have it of every corporation dedicated to hiring student veteran interns.
Admittedly, I've always used the term veterans. I mean, this is like one of the first times I've ever used the word student veteran. And so, how many student veterans are there out there?
Well, with the new GI Bill, there's hundreds of thousands of veterans all over the country rolling into higher ed, whether that be 4-year schools, 2-year schools, or proprietary school. So it's in the hundreds of thousands with the increase in GI Bill benefits.
Mm-hmm. So share with us a little bit about this, because you said the company, you also run a fellowship program?
Yes, so last fall we included about 16 student veterans into our fellowship program. This is what the push aspect of it. The student veterans never learned, hadn't had any prior knowledge in terms of resume, cover letter, networking, and what we did is we went ahead and sat them down in a classroom type setting, taught them these skills. And then what we also did, it was connected them to employers through networking events. Mm-hmm. So for example, we went to NBC, New York Life, JP Morgan, the NFL, and with those opportunities, a lot of these veterans are now an internship at these companies. So, and that's what a project that we're continually work on is select about 15 to 25 veterans every year to go ahead and do that push. Mm-hmm. To also go inside with our pull campaign.
When you're looking and canvassing these student veterans, what do you see as some of their immediate needs?
The immediate needs these students have is networking and understanding corporate culture. It's very different than the military, where the military is very rigid, very structured, tell you what to do. For example, I'm a U.S. Navy vet, and I would never, while I was serving, go up to an officer that I didn't know and just talk to them. It's not proper etiquette. Mm-hmm. But here in the civilian world, rank, for example, here in this wonderful production set, you have the interns and your producers and your directors, but more or less everyone talks to one another. Mm-hmm. With veterans coming back, they have an issue with networking because in our mind, it's still that structure. Well, we can't talk to this.
We don't speak to authority.
We don't speak to the managers. We don't speak to the higher ups unless they talk to us first. So it's trying to break down that mentality and say it's okay. This is a different world. Unless you have those skills, you're not going to be successful. Getting a college diploma doesn't necessarily guarantee you a job anymore. So that's the number one concern in terms of breaking down that rigid mentality and teaching student veterans, that word again, how to network.
We're seeing a little bit of your website right here, and we're seeing that this is some people outside NBC Studios, and share a little bit about this.
Well, NBC is a wonderful organization in terms of outreach to veterans. They have the Veteran Network that's headed up by Val Nicholas and many others, Brian Dolfer. I really feel bad about excluding them. There's just so many wonderful people at NBC Universal that are committed to veteran issues. And we've connected with them, and they say, hey, we want to hire student veterans. Where do you find the student veterans? In campuses. Kind of like the one here at Lehman. Mm-hmm. And so we act as a mediary. So the colleges are in the talent development business, companies are in the talent acquisition business. So 4Block mediates between, hey, there's another branch here. There's student veterans. There's a cohort in each college of students that have already proven themselves in Iraq and Afghanistan, have acted in tremendously well in terms of horrible situations that have been out in the war. And now they're coming back, and now they have these skills, and now they're getting their education. Take a chance, and I guarantee that they will be an asset to an organization. And for the most part, every veteran that's been at an internship has been. We receive good feedback in terms of the talent that we were able to provide the corporation.
So going out and trying to actually recruit these student veterans, how's the process been in terms of actually putting your hands on them and saying, listen, this is what we have that's available?
Well, it's having working relationships with the universities, with CUNY, Wilfred Cotto, and Stephen Clark, and also from the grander stage at CUNY, and then at the career counseling offices at the campuses. I'll just go to a career counseling campus and be like, we have a program designed for student veterans. Can you help us? The majority of times they say yes. And when we help, we just mean, can you distribute this flyer? Can you distribute this email? We just have a partnership with JP Morgan. Could you distribute this opportunity? Because we want to make sure that we send JP Morgan about 10 to 15 student veterans so that they continue a partnership with us.
So we encourage people to find out more about this, and how do they go about finding more about this?
Well, one, they could email their resume to internships@4block.com. Two, they could also email their questions to internships@4block.com. And three, if they would want to have their campus involved in our program, they could go ahead and push their career counseling office, their academic advisors, their veteran representatives at the school to go ahead and connect with us. It's internships@4block.com, and we could go ahead and be that mediator between the student veteran pool and the companies.
All right. Well, Francisco, thank you for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, good to have you here, Francisco Mena, and we want you to stay with us because guess what? There's going to be more open coming up right after this, including a talk with a very special veteran who's doing something in regards to veteran rights. We'll talk about that when we return in a second.
College is hard. Down. Those books are heavy.
My sport is football, but my passion is education. So every year, I take promising high schoolers on a college tour to show them that higher education means a brighter future. My name is Nnamdi Asamoah. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Find out how you can live United for Education. Give, advocate, volunteer. Go to liveunited.org.
Do you wear this?
Welcome home, man.
And welcome back to Open. Remember, we are a live and interactive talk show, so join in on our conversation by giving us a call at 718-960-7241. Or as always, you can just send us an email to open@bronxnet.org. And if you are lucky enough, we open it up right here on the show. Well, we met our next guest back in November of 2011. We learned about his every unique journey. He had decided to go on a walk across America, and hit every major state capital along the way. And now we're pleased to be having on our set Matt McEwen. Actually, he's over the phone, and he updates us on the status of his trip and actually what is next on his trip. And Matt, good to have you.
Good morning, sir. How are you on this fine morning?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you?
I am outstanding, sir. It's a great day to be alive.
It is a great day. Now, listen, we here in New York in the Bronx, and things are pretty well out here because the weather's good. The question of the day is, where are you in this walk across the United States now?
Currently, I'm in Fayetteville, North Carolina, which is the home of Fort Bragg.
So you made it down to Fayetteville, North Carolina?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what's going on down there?
It's been a blessing for me down here. I came down here originally to stay for a week. But I've been here for 3 weeks because I keep getting speaking engagements.
Wow. So you're actually not, in addition to walking now, so you're actually giving speaking engagements in regards to, and what's your message to those people who are out there listening?
You know, my primary mission is we simply can't forget about our veterans. I know everyone has a busy life and they have their own things they have to work on. Many people have 2 jobs, full families, but we just have to take time out of each day and remember our veterans.
And when you talk about remembering veterans, obviously it's not just your goal for them for people to remember veterans, but really also you're doing some raising of money for veterans. So share with us a little bit about how the public has actually been able to play a part in this, because all across the United States you've been able to do this walk, and it seems as though in following you, the more you walk, the more people are catching on.
Oh my God, you know, it has been such a blessing since I left New York. You guys have been a huge asset to my success so far. Over the last probably 6 weeks, we've raised over $5,000 for our foundation.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And every dime goes right to the troops. We are raising money for homeless veterans and, of course, the wounded veterans. And we also are taking on a recognition of the POWs and MIAs. Many people aren't aware of the fact that in this current conflict, there are 2 POWs unaccounted for.
So you have 2 that are unaccounted for?
Correct. There's a Sergeant Bowie who's been missing since 2009, and they have no clue where he is.
And the other?
I think it's a Corporal Ballinger. I'm doing that by memory. I'm not sure of the other gentleman's name.
Well, as we're talking right now, a lot of videos rolling of the support that you've gotten. Actually, I see billboards outside supporting you, and places are actually giving you, that center of attention to let people know exactly what you're doing and how it's going. Now, let me ask you: you're in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Where are you going from here?
From Fayetteville, I'll be heading south into Florida. And if I had to guess, I'll be in Florida near the end of April, like mid-May. And then from there, I'll shoot to the top of the country, which will take me into Michigan. And then I'll serpentine north to south and south to north all the way to California.
So when you talk about, you said you'll shoot there, and literally we want people to know that when you talk about shooting, you're not talking about taking a flight, you're literally walking all across America. Question I had when you were here sitting in studio was, where do you stay on the overnights in regards to your travel? And you also mentioned that the fire department sometimes and local places have been able to assist you and letting you stay. What else have you been doing in terms of overnight accommodations?
Yeah, that has been a true blessing. And it continued to be a blessing. People have come out of the woodwork to be just an amazing blessing to me. To give you a quick example, when I got to Richmond, Virginia, the fire chief met me there, about a dozen firefighters, a huge turnout met me at the Capitol, and the fire chief told me, Mac, the bad news is you can't stay at the firehouse because of our insurance policy. But the good news is the Hilton has stepped in and they're giving you a free night.
Wow.
Yeah, I was pampered that night. Hot tub, indoor pool. It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, considering that you're putting it on foot and, you haven't been staying at hotels and you have talked about staying at firehouses, obviously it's got to be quite refreshing staying at a Hilton. What are your future plans as far as, now that the weather's getting warm, do you think you're going to be able to get to more states now that the weather's warm?
Oh, absolutely. I've been fortunate on this walk so far, and I just went over 5 months about a week ago, that I've been very lucky as far as the weather's concerned. I only got snowed in one time. I was on my way north to New York. I have been caught in a few thunderstorms, but I continue to walk even to the thunderstorms. But of course, the warmer the weather, the easier it is on me.
Yes, sir. And as I asked you the question before, I'm going to ask you again, talking about family. How has your family been throughout this whole ordeal? Because obviously it's put them at a disadvantage not having you at home and you're on the road. What's been the attitude of your family now that you've progressed all the way down to North Carolina?
My family could not be more proud and behind me 100%. I do miss my family. I miss my daughter, who's 23. I miss my immediate families and brothers and sisters, but they're behind me 100%. And they just remind me that this is something that has to be accomplished. It's, it's something bigger than myself, and it just has to be done, regardless of the sacrifices I have to make. But the sacrifices I make, in comparison, is nothing compared to what the sacrifices veterans make when they come home and they're wounded, or they have prosthetics, or they're paralyzed. So what I'm doing is minute compared to what they're doing.
Well, Mac, let's ask people, for people who want to support you while you're still traveling around the country, what do they do?
If they want to support us through donations, it's all tax deductible. They can go to my website, which is www.marinewalking.org. They can also go to Facebook, which there's a link on my website for that. And the strongest ally I have right now is the word of mouth. And getting it out on media, or just get on your Facebook page and just spread the word. That's what my strongest ally right now is.
Well, we continue to follow you, and as you said when you left New York, we continue to follow and find out exactly where you are in your travels. I want to thank you for the work that you've done in both serving our country and then bringing awareness to veterans. Of course, we'll let our viewers know exactly where you are on the map, and we'll continue to call you from time to time, and you let us know your progress on how you're making all across the United States.
Well, sir, I want to thank you for the time and give me a call. You guys have been a very strong asset in my success, and I cannot thank you guys enough, because you came on board in the early stages of this, and I owe you guys so much.
Well, we owe you, and thank you so much for what you do, and I'll give you a call real soon.
Thank you, sir, and God bless.
All righty, take care. God bless you. Mac McEwen, who is from the Armed Services and really on a walk across America. We'll continue to give you more information in regards to Mac's travels. You can hit us up on our Facebook page, also our Twitter page, and also BronxNet.org to find out more about Mac and where he's traveling across the United States, in addition to how you can play a part if you want to give a donation as well. Well, coming up, it's the hallmark of one program, to assist youth services in building the path to a successful continuing education. About exactly what we're talking about right after this.
Can you tell which of these children was not born free? Can you tell which of these children was not born equal? Can you tell which of these children does not deserve to be treated with dignity? We can't either. Human right number one. We are all born free and equal. What are human rights? Find out at youthforhumanrights.org.
I'm lucky. Let me help you with that. I get to do something I love. It has nothing to do with touchdowns or titles. Everybody bring it in. I get to play a part in the life of someone just starting out. How many of you think homework is just as important as teamwork? I help keep kids in school. Good. And that's the name of the game. My name is LaDainian Thomason. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United.
Coming home can be hard if you're a veteran of Iraq or Afghanistan. You may feel like you're all alone. But you're not alone. At IAVA.org, your fellow vets are all around you. Join our free online community, get the resources you need, and connect to other vets who know where you're coming from. IAVA.org. We've got your back.
The Youth Development Institute is an organization that since 1991 has provided services to youth programs not only in New York City, but all around the United States. They're committed to concentrating on the challenges and opportunities associated with helping young people successfully transition into the adult world. One of the programs they offer, the Community Education Pathways to Success program, a series associated with Mayor Bloomberg's Young Men's Initiative, helps other organizations build up their services for young adults between the ages of 17 to 24. And here now to tell us more about it is Annie Moyer Martinez and William Blair. We welcome you both to the show.
Hi.
Thank you. So share with us a little bit more about your program.
Sure. So the Community Education Pathways to Success model was developed by YDI, the Youth Development Institute, in 2005. And our mission in developing this model was to create something that really met the needs of older youth, ages 16 to 24, reading at low literacy levels, so reading between 4th and 8th grade reading levels. And so we began working with 3 organizations, including Eastside House, and have expanded to working with 25 organizations in the city and across the country. Yep.
Well, share a little bit about Eastside House and their partnership.
Eastside House, first I must say, was started in 1891. It's one of the original settlement houses in the United States. We moved to the Bronx in 1963. We currently operate out of Mott Haven. We have 17 programs that we operate out of 4 community centers. We have Head Start programs, youth service programs, and senior programs. With YDI, all collaboration started in 2007. We were one of the original groups that participated in the SEPS pilot program in New York City. And we've been able to use the curriculum to solidify the work that we do with young people. We work with the same age group, 16 to 24, and the SEPS, or the program that we're talking about, works with students who are reading below the 9th grade level. So we've been able to move these young people with the use of the YDI model out of that reading level from 5th grade all the way to the high school level where they can take the GED examination.
Walk me through the curriculum a little bit, because obviously it's been quite advantageous for young people of the ages of 17 to 24. What exactly are you doing to really boost those scores?
Sure. Well, what YDI does is works directly with organizations like Eastside to kind of build their capacity. These are organizations that have been providing services to young people for a long time. But our intention was to kind of bump it up and to make it more intentional to meet the needs of this specific population. So what we do is, it's a model that focuses on providing a team approach to working with young people, so really sending continuous messages about our high expectations for young people and the supports that we're willing to provide them. And specifically, we help organizations to develop their capacity around literacy and numeracy. So with literacy, it's making sure that young people are having opportunities to read, write, speak, listen every day for at least 90 minutes. And we use a balanced literacy approach. It's very focused. They're learning vocabulary every day. They're having, they're hearing a fluent reader read out loud to them every day. They're writing every day. So it's very intentional. And really it's a shift away what's happening in a lot of programs, which is giving you a GED book, sitting you down and say, do these worksheets.
Right.
So it's much more about kind of classroom discussion and critical thinking skills.
Talk to me about response from students with that specific model in mind, the fact that you are doing this as opposed to, okay, just take this and do this. How are students being, how are they engaged? Are they more engaged? Are they more responsive with this?
They are. And one of the reasons is that they learn strategies. So it's not just picking up a book and reading. There's strategies that apply to how you retain information. So we use stuff like background knowledge. So when you're reading a book, it refers to some history that you may have had. So if you're reading a story and there's something that you can relate it to in your personal life, something you've read before or in the real world, it makes the story real. And we use that not only for the reading aspect, but I use it in talking about young people in real life. So if you step out of a building and you notice something, your background knowledge tells you that this is likely to happen next. The choices you make there is based on that background knowledge, and the predictions that you make, which is part of the reading strategies about what happens next.
So in addition to regular education, there's also life education as well.
Yes. Absolutely. So the model is, the core of it is really this literacy and numeracy, but it's about working with staff around career development as well, social support, so really helping young people to overcome any obstacles that might keep them from coming to class, and all of this within a youth development approach, which is really working from a strength-based approach, recognizing the assets that young people bring every time they walk in the door, really creating this kind of community feel, which I think is special about this model, that it's been in community-based organizations and now in libraries. So this is where our young people are. They're already connected to places like Eastside, and now giving them an opportunity to get really rigorous academic supports.
How do young people participate in a program such as this?
Well, for Eastside House, starts with word of mouth. We do outreaches to schools and in the community buildings. So they come in, they apply, we do an intake process where we evaluate their readiness, not based on academic ability, but based on the need for the program. And I think one of the most important aspects of it is the primary council component, which is the social services area, where we reach out, find out what are the challenges young people have or barriers that affect them from being successful in an academic way, and address those issues along with the academic aspect of it. So for us, what we're doing is when we bring a student in for intake, before they even start the program, we do what is called a psychosocial, which assesses their needs, and then connect them to services that they may need that mitigate some of the barriers that they may have. So that aspect also is part of the model that is different from what young people are accustomed to.
And so you're actually able to assess and find out exactly what somebody needs. How does that work? Because if after you find out what a person needs, because many times those actually play a part in the whole educational process, because you got to have somebody with low grades, but it could be low grades because I've got an issue at home and I'm the babysitter.
Right.
So how do you make that? How do you make the the connection there?
Sure. Well, part of the model really has been to train teams together so that the social support staff really knows the literacy approach. The literacy staff really understands what's being asked of the social support staff, and they have to meet on a regular basis and work together to support young people, so that there's no falling through the cracks. If somebody's, we were just talking about this, waiting. If somebody's out, there's somebody calling them. They're letting the teacher know why that young person is out. There's a lot of really strong communication that happens that I think is critical when working with young people who have a lot going on in their lives, and really supporting them and also holding them accountable, saying, we believe that you can do this, we have high expectations for you, and this is how you're going to do it with our support.
So once again, before we get out of here, please give some information and let people know exactly how they can be in touch with both of your organizations.
Sure. Well, you can look YDI up at www.ydinstitute.org, and you can find, we have a range of programs, not just SEPs, but we work with 100 programs in the city, Beacon programs, so lots of different things. Wherever young people are, we try to support the organizations that serve them. So definitely look us up, and we'd love to hear from you.
Okay. We're at eastsidehouse.org on the web. Also, we're on Facebook, so you can find us. We welcome young people who are looking to change their lives, and they're ready, we're ready.
All righty. Well, thank you guys both for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you.
And,
Thanks for having
best
us.
wishes. All righty. Well, we want you to stay with us, because guess what? A Bronx nonprofit is ensuring that the South Bronx kids will not only be navigated through the high school application process, but also get into their dream school. But first, the Bronx Chamber of Commerce recently held their Irish Heritage Luncheon, where former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani was the guest speaker. Mayor Giuliani's speech focused on several issues, such as jobs, economic development, and the city's energy supply. BronxNet correspondent Sylvia Anglin has more.
The honorees have assembled for the Bronx Chamber of Commerce Irish American Honors. In honor of the achievements and contributions Irish Americans have made to the United States, we celebrate March as Irish Heritage Month.
Pride of the Irish is something that, I've grown up with my whole life. And I have had the honor of being recognized before twice for Irish Heritage Week. And it never gets old. It's so exciting. I was so excited when I got up this morning because, when you grow up being Irish, your family values and the things that you're brought up to, work hard, serve the community, help others. It's something that runs through the Irish.
A little over 36 million Americans, or almost 12% of the population, trace their ancestry back to Ireland.
It's always nice to be recognized by your peers, but getting this award today, I say to myself, when I look at the other folks who are being honored, such as Joe Kelleher, I say, really, I'm in really good company, and it's an honor to be in the company of people like Joe and my fellow honorees. We have so many tremendous people in the Bronx, so anytime you're told that you're one of them, that you're part of the greater family of the Bronx, it's always a great honor.
And the Bronx is home to a large population of Irish Americans, so the Bronx Chamber of Commerce honored the outstanding men and women for their accomplishments.
Absolutely nothing I am prouder of than being Irish. From the time I was a little girl, it was a very important part of my upbringing. I've been to Ireland. My family has always supported the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I've always been a part of it. I've marched. It's not only being proud of your heritage, it's really being proud of what the heritage speaks to.
And honored guests of the luncheon included Chris Lemon and Mayor Rudolph Giuliani.
Yes, and a very prestigious one, and I'm really very deeply honored. To be able to sit on the dais with these wonderful gentlemen and be in this incredible company, and to meet one of my biggest heroes, the mayor, Rudy Giuliani, is truly a treat.
But I believe it very strongly. And I thought I was an effective mayor because I always tried to be honest about my viewpoint. It used to get me in a lot of trouble with the New York Times. I remember I called one of my fellow public officials a crook. The New York Times said how intemperate and terrible I was. They never wrote an editorial later on when he went to jail, apologizing. But I tried to be honest with people.
Although Irish and non-Irish celebrate the holiday of St. Patrick's Day, the Bronx Chamber recognized that during this month-long celebration, the contributions of these honorees.
I have a stellar lineup of business and community leaders that are going to be honored today. There are people who are given a tremendous amount of their attention, their effort, their time, and the resources to make the Bronx a better Bronx.
And those honored in turn celebrated and recognized those who came before them.
It's incredibly exciting. Kind of the old Irish swelling with pride comes out, and I kind of think of my grandmother, Rose Kelly, who was born in the Emerald Isle, and how proud she is now. She's looking down at me with a beer in her hand and toasting to me and saying, "Way to go, grandson." So that makes me feel great.
Irish Americans have shaped the face of the Bronx, and the Bronx Chamber of Commerce for Irish Heritage Month honors those in business and community for their service to the Bronx at large. For BronxNet, this is Sylvia Anglin.
Hey, Shan.
Well, the nonprofit organization WEDCO is helping South Bronx youth through the high school application process by acting as a liaison between the Student Department of Education and school in which they're applying. The program, called Project STEP, engages students in social justice and gains them entry into some of the city's most competitive high schools. Here now to tell us more is WEDCO's Director of Education and Youth Programs, Katie Alwyn, and also Project STEP Coordinator Director, Nicole Jennings, and student Nikki Gonzalez. So we welcome you all to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. So as you talk about the process, I guess we'll start with just the whole application process of getting kids actually involved in getting ready for their next level of going to school. that's an arduous task in itself. And you guys are really doing something in terms of bridging that gap.
Yes, absolutely. So the process is very new to a lot of our families. It's also a very complicated process. There's a lot to know. And a lot of our students and their families need a lot of support from sort of A to Z in the process. So they're sort of handed a big book that's about this thick and expected to make a decision within, just a few short weeks about what their top 12 choices are. A lot of our families have never, the families have never been in school even in the U.S. So the whole process is really foreign.
Mm-hmm. So when you talk about this foreign process and you're engaging kids and their parents and trying to get them involved, walk us through a little bit about what you guys actually do.
Well, Nicole works with families, and all of WEDCO, we work with families who we have them come in starting in 6th grade, working with the students to kind of get them acclimated to the high school preparation process. And then in 7th grade, their parents come in and meet with us just to kind of get them ready and thinking about high school. In 8th grade, we then host the families again to kind of go through the 12 steps, the 12 schools that they'll be attending, that they'll be choosing and hopefully attending. And then we also host a high school fair every year for our 7th and 8th grade students and their families, where we invite over 45 high schools, both public, private, charter, and parochial, to come in and just kind of give parents and students an idea of what the many options that they have are.
So Nikki, you had an opportunity to get into your dream school. Which is your dream school?
Bard Early College.
Okay.
High school.
So talk to us about the process, because obviously, as she said, sometimes it can be a little bit of a hard process. What was it like for you getting down to just being able to get into your dream school?
Well, it was hard at first because in 7th grade, I remember teachers sitting us down asking us what school we wanted to get into. I was sitting there listening to other people saying how they wanted to get into these top schools, and I had no idea what those schools even were. So then once I entered Project STEP, they were able to tell me about specialized high schools, and they prepared us for the test. And then they told us about all the high schools, like my high school, Bard, which isn't a specialized high school, but you really need to take a test and an interview to get into. So I needed to go to the school and take the specialized high school test in Bronx Science, since it's the Borough Specialized High School. And then at school, luckily, Nicole was able to get Olga, the students on mission in the high school, to come to our school and actually let us take the test there. And from there, they asked us to come back for an interview. Mm-hmm. And then after all of that, we go through the list, and we have to go through the books, which one is easier to get to, which one has the best education for you, and you just really get to pick which one is best for you.
I guess in some instances it really is advantageous, because I heard her say, well, she got to take the test at school, as opposed to somebody who feels like, look, I'm going to the school, I got to take this test, I don't know. Here we bring the test to you. So obviously there's some advantages to being a part of that STEP program.
Absolutely. I mean, taking the test in your own school, is I think a familiar environment for the students, so it sort of takes away from some of the anxiety that they have going to a foreign school, taking a test. And it was important for us to bring Bard to the Bronx, because students, we kept finding that the test dates were taken up before the students were even beginning the registration process. Right. So parents that were in the know in New York City were getting those test dates within and were filled within days of notification. Mm-hmm. So our students were shut out from the process before it even started.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you guys are doing a good job of making that aware to parents, as well as, you don't have to go through this alone per se, and to students, have no fear, because we can really help you with the process. For kids who want to be a part of it, or for a parent that's actually saying, listen, this sounds like a good thing to do, what should they do?
Parents should definitely look at our website, www.wedco.org, which is WHEDCO.org. Mm-hmm. And then they can also give us a call at 718-839-1100 and ask for Nicole Jennings, because Nicole will definitely give everyone all the information that they need to enroll in Project STEP.
And so do you feel now confident that you'll be okay with school now that you've been through this hard part of the process?
Yeah, it's been a hard process, but luckily I was able to get into a school I have a friend with. Mm-hmm. It's the traveling will be a lot easier than just sitting there alone, staring off into space, and then you'll have somebody to help you in school, with the work that you might have problems with.
Mm-hmm. Common mistake parents make in this process?
Backup schools.
Yeah, there are a lot. I mean, a lot of parents and students think they want to have a backup school, and usually it's a not so great school in their community. They think, well, if I'm going to reach really high and put all these great schools on here, then at least I'll have this backup. And that's one of the things that I really encourage them not to think like that, and to just put schools that they absolutely want their kids to go to, because their kid could get into the 12th choice, and it happens every year.
Wow. So what are some of the biggest problems or challenges you guys find in doing this whole thing?
I think access to information for me personally, being a non-Spanish speaking New Yorker, a lot of our families are Hispanic and Spanish only speaking. But I think, even more, they need even more support. Luckily, we have a lot of Spanish-speaking employees that are able to assist in that process and bridge that gap. But I think access to information is the biggest. There are a lot of scholarship opportunities. There are a lot of really great programs like Prep for Prep, ABC program, SSP, Student Sponsor Partners, that help students get scholarships. Not only high-performing students, but also sort of average students. There are scholarship opportunities for them to sort of have the opportunity and the chance to do better.
Walk us through with a quick synopsis of the program from, a perspective of, I'm a parent and I've got my child and here I am. Can you give me a quick walkthrough?
So our Project STEP is a part of our larger after-school program, and so we mostly serve students at PSMS 218 in District 9, and our students, it's open enrollment for anyone in the neighborhood who would like to attend the program, whether they attend the school or not, and those students then, we work with them. They do a social justice project with Project STEP. We work with them on homework, and then we have an arts-based and recreation-based activities in the afternoon, such as chess, violin, Latin percussion, t-shirt design, gym. Gym. That's the favorite part there. Yeah.
The Bronx has also one of the highest teen pregnancy rates in the in the country, and so one of the really important programs that we run is a sexual and reproductive health program called JAM, Just Ask Me, and it's peer-led. In addition to a sexual health educator, works with all of our 120 Project STEP students, middle school students every year, teaching them about the ins and outs of sex ed.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you guys for coming and sharing a little bit about it. And of course, you've got the information at the bottom of the screen. And if you want to find out more about WEDCO, there you go to their to the website that's listed on the bottom of the screen. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. Best wishes with school.
Thank you.
All righty, thank you. And we want to tell you that's about all the time we have for you for today's episode of Open. Definitely been a pleasure coming into your homes. We want to thank our guests for joining us, but most importantly, we want to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you want to, you can tune in tonight for the Recablecast if you missed any part of the show. That comes on at 10 p.m. on Channel 67. And then also Verizon Files, Channel 33. Also, if you want to catch a brand new, fresh episode of Open, well, guess what? Friday, 10 a.m. My girl, Rena Valentine, will be here, and you can catch a brand new episode there. She focuses on arts and entertainment. Until the next time we meet, keep your heart, your mind, and most of all, this channel wide open. Darren Jaime saying, take
Okay, now you ready? Now, just like I showed you.
Yeah.
Now push in the clutch and gently shift it in the first gear.
I remember.
Okay, that was good.